A big thanks to my listeners for staying tuned in to the Joan Jerkovich Show here on 910 KINA. We're here with our second guest, Dr. Boo Hodges, who's going to tell us about living in his haunted house. Let's hear
Joan.
about this. Hi, welcome.
Yeah, actually, and I honestly, prior to living where we live, I did not really believe in ghosts.
Really?
I really didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
that was never part of my
So
deal.
when you went to buy
Okay.
this house, did you know there was some history with it?
Yes.
Okay.
There was a big fire there, and I believe it was 1974, 75. There was a woman who died of smoke inhalation, basically got burned to death right inside the front door of the house in 1975.
Wow.
It was about half destroyed by fire. And the families that took, I mean, it was then sold by her family. Well, it stood vacant for several years, and if you talk to some people in Salina, when they were teenagers, they'd go up there and park. And apparently it was a very spooky place parking up there. And, you know, they could go in and wander around. The house kind of stood vacant for a few years. But severe fire. The problem was it was surrounded, she'd let the trees grow up around the house, and I guess it burned for like 5 or 6 hours before anybody noticed. So a lot of smoke damage, really dark and that kind of stuff. But they then, the two subsequent owners fixed it up, kept fixing up, and got it to a certain point, and then that's when Melissa and I bought it in 1990. And
So when these kids were going up there to kind of hang out, and I'm sure it was kind of maybe at that point even thought to be somewhat haunted.
Oh, no
or at
doubt.
least
That was
spooky,
kind of the big deal,
because it was sort of a burned out, somewhat shell.
Well, it was kind of spooky.
What percentage of the house actually got destroyed in the
About
fire?
40%.
Wow, that's
It was
a big
gutted,
fire.
you know, and
You
they had to
bet.
start. It was a big fire. And
it was well known, I'm sure,
Oh, yeah,
that this
absolutely.
person died in,
Yes.
and on the spot. Now, tell me something. Do you know any more about this person?
Yeah,
Did they
actually,
live
we
there
know.
alone? Did
No,
they have a family?
she was actually, her husband was a doctor, and he was one of the co-founders of what is now Maori Clinic.
Oh, wow.
And he died of Lou Gehrig's disease like in the 60s. But she has 3 sons that are still alive, and they're a very successful couple doctors, one professor. They live back east, and they come back occasionally, talk to us, actually. They had a wonderful childhood in the house and loved it. Apparently, she was getting older, more of a recluse, smoked.
Well, that even adds to the story. Recluse.
Right.
No one's seen her very much.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And the theory is she fell asleep on the couch with a lit cigarette. And then the other theory is that her dog was in the house, and she went back for the dog. And what was really spooky, we have like fire scene pictures that show like her sitting handprints on the wall where she's trying to find her way out through the smoke.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
Like-
she died right inside the front door.
Yeah, like you know, she couldn't see, but you
Right.
could see the.
And you can see it. I mean, they're pretty
hands,
bad.
handprints.
Pretty bad.
Uh-huh.
And the
Now,
thing
where
is,
did you get those? I mean, by
we did some research. It's funny. There used to be the fire chief here was named Tom Gerard, and that was his first fire he ever worked as a rookie fireman. And he swore it was like the problem is it was like Memorial Day, but it was one of those hot, humid Memorial days. So it was like almost 100 degrees and humid. And he said it was the worst fire he's ever worked. 'Cause they said, and I guess her body temperature when they found her was like 112. So I mean, it was a horrible day for the firemen too. And he remembered it vividly. But we did some research and it's public record, and
Of
we were able
course.
to see those. So that was kind of
So
spooky.
her body temperature came through some of your research from
Well, they
the
pulled her out on the
autopsy
front,
or the
no, the front
coroner's
porch. They pulled her on the front
notes
porch
stuff.
and
Right.
checked it, and she was basically cooked, which is horrible. And we,
What a horrific thing, even for her children to have to
awful,
go back to.
awful, and it was really messed
Traumatic.
up. So we moved in there, and it had been partially restored, but a lot of the windows still leaked air, you know, and wavy glass. And I remember the first night I was in there, I had to get up like 2 a.m. to do a delivery, and there's a thunderstorm going on, and it was spooky. I mean, walking right by where her body was
Where
found,
she had
real
been
spooky.
found.
But that was mostly I think in your head, But then we noticed within the next year or two after we moved in there, things just started disappearing.
Can you tell me how old the house was?
It was built in 1916.
16. Oh, so it was quite old, even in the 70s.
Oh yeah, I mean,
She
it'll
had
be
burned.
it's coming up on 100th birthday here in about 5 years.
So you knew the history. You knew that she died there. You knew these kids.
But it was a
had
cool
kind of
house,
seen
and
it,
we
but
actually
yeah,
Melissa
it
and I
was a
wanted.
beautiful house.
Well, we wanted. It was very historically important, and we wanted to
Exactly.
restore it. And it's actually we got it back about 10 years ago. We got it on the National Historic Register. I mean, it's a cool house. It was made by the architect was a student of Frank Lloyd Wright, and it was one of his early works. His name was Charles Shepard. Who's most of his works in Kansas City, Kansas. But there's some things about
the Frank Lloyd Wright.
Oh, very
influences
praised style,
on that.
and we liked it.
Absolutely.
And
You
it was worth saving, and we liked that part. And really, she never bothers. It just stuff would disappear, And then Melissa would get ticked off, say, "Helen, give it back," and a week or two later, it'd show up clear across the house. And it was always just little stuff. you know. And then there's
But
Grant.
now, so things started to disappear.
Yeah.
Because, of course, we're talking about this haunting.
Yeah.
And,
Like
you know,
books,
so, and you're just like
keys.
certain it was there.
Oh,
You're
no
certain
doubt.
you put it down.
Oh yeah, all of us knew where it was. It was just not there.
Right.
And then it would appear like across the house, totally different place.
Some completely different.
Yeah,
place.
like 3 or 4 weeks later.
And it would take that long.
Oh, absolutely.
And so you said you actually even got to where you might kind of talk to this.
Oh,
ghost?
Melissa gets mad and say, Helen, that's enough. Give it back. And I swear to God, usually within 2 or 3 days it's back. And where her bedroom was, there's a closet. That's where my son Grant's room is. And that closet has a light bulb in it, you know, like an on-off switch. And there's just times when it won't go off.
You cannot
It
get it
flickers.
to turn off.
Or it turns, we can't turn it on or we can't turn it off. It's like, and we've had it rewired 3 times. We had an electrician check. Everything's brand new. And there's just times it just flickers,
And
which is kind of cool.
Right. And when you can't turn it off, you figure again. Do you tell Helen turn the light off?
Well, we don't want, I mean, you know, it's not hurting anything, right? What's going to happen? We're going to have a fire?
Mad, yeah.
Well, no, and it's funny, that closet, what they did, and we didn't do this, but we didn't change it. There was so bad a smoke throughout the whole house that the ceiling of that closet, you can see, is just black from smoke damage. And what they did is they sealed it. They put like a clear varnish over it to remind it how bad it was. So it's really the only
that's
thing extant in the
interesting.
house that has smoke damage.
Yeah,
And I
but
don't
they
know-
wanted to almost like keep it for
I don't know.
remembrance.
Well,
or
yeah,
something.
because it was really intense.
Because now when you did the renovation, you decided to keep that place exposed, or was it the prior people who did renovations?
The prior.
Right.
And we didn't want to change it because it is kind of cool. I mean, it's really impressive.
And it really shows.
Oh, yeah.
Now, do you ever feel any kind of a presence of this Helen?
No, you know, there's been a couple times coming in at night after deliveries, I kind of, you get a little, I don't know, you feel a little chill go down your spine, but it's not scary.
Right,
You know.
right. You've said you're not
Well, it's
afraid
just,
of
you know, sometimes you
ghosts.
get that with your imagination, because you know, the
Exactly.
wind's blowing, you know, and the problem is that wavy old glass, you know what I'm talking about with old Holden
Yes.
glass, it gives you periphery, it gives you a feeling of movement. So there's some of that.
Right.
But she's never like, nothing goes bang in the middle of the night, or no moaning, or, you know, nothing else, and nobody's done anything bad. It's not like somebody got knocked out or thrown downstairs or something like that, you know.
And when you feel that chill, have you ever actually like been able to like step in a place in the house and then feel it otherwise?
Usually just like when walking through the front hall where she
Uh-huh.
died.
And it's always right there. Is it always kind of
Right.
right where she
Pretty much.
was found?
But you know, it's not like I feel bad or it's like ice cold. It's I don't know. It's just you get kind of the hair stands up in your back and neck for a few seconds. And you're not really scared. It's just like that's kind of weird.
That is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But you're totally believing this because you
Sure.
said before you moved in this
Well,
house
you know,
didn't really
I'm
believe
sorry.
in
There's,
this.
I mean, no, the first 2 or 3 times something disappeared for 3 weeks and then appeared somewhere else, I thought, well, yeah, I must have
Yes,
forgotten.
that's what I would
And you know,
have
but then we started comparing notes, and it's like, you know, with 4 adults, you know, the 2 kids and 2 adults, could we all be wrong that many times? And it wasn't like it happens once or twice. I mean, it happens, God, in 20 years, it probably happened 30, 40 times.
And what did the kids think of some of that?
They're
How
cool
did your
with it.
kids react to
Well,
all
you know,
this?
Grant's sleeping in her bedroom, and he already
Yeah.
slept great.
Yeah, and he
So I
never
think she
felt
likes
anything
Grant.
like that or felt any even warm presence?
No, it's
or-
just, I mean, you know, it's just stuff moves.
Yeah, stuff moves around.
And the light won't go off. You know, so it's, I mean, it's kind of interesting. And Grant never had any, he slept great, and his room was great. And she must like, I mean, I think she gets along with us pretty well. And also, it's funny, I talked to Bill Mowry before he died. Dr. Mowry played cards with her a lot, and he knew what she drank. So
Oh, that's
I think if she gets
interesting.
too revved up, I'm just going to leave a fifth of Jack Black out and see what happens, right?
Calm her down.
Yeah. She apparently
Give her a
drank a
little
bit
whiskey
too.
to calm her
Yeah,
down.
apparently she drank a
Exactly.
bit too. But
Have you ever tried to bait something by putting a fifth out there and see if she
I
might
have
try
not.
to
I
move that
don't go looking
somewhere
for trouble,
empty and
Joan.
comes up empty?
I don't go looking for trouble, right? She's happy
I
we're
think
there.
that'd be
We're okay
fun.
with it.
Yeah.
You know, she gives it. And the stuff never disappears forever.
Okay, so she's not.
It always comes back. I think she's just messing with us,
Yeah.
which is okay.
So
Apparently,
what's
she
your
had a
actual
sense of humor.
belief of how or why this happens? I mean, if you believe that there is this spirit or this other dimension, or what do you believe about this?
Oh, you know.
Take it beyond what you're experiencing right here.
Oh no,
Tell me
I
this
think.
stuff.
I mean, and my wife would give me all kinds of crap for this because she's very not that way. I mean, she's very concrete, and you know, here now. I do think there's another place.
Another dimension.
I think whatever you will call it. Yeah.
Mhm, yeah.
I mean, I really do believe that.
Mhm. Like our spirit lives on in some way.
I
and
think
she's
so.
stuck between dimensions.
Well, no, it's funny, and I
somewhere.
think dreams are very important in that.
Well, what
I think you know, I've had several people in my family that were very close to me die, and I'm not a dreamer. I don't usually remember my dreams at all. And there have been several times where I dreamed something about them, even a year or two later, that was very, I don't know, it was very meaningful, and there were certain messages there that I thought were pretty cool, and I just didn't believe that was just my mind rambling along, you know what I'm saying? And it just happens enough times you kind of wonder, okay, well, maybe there's something.
And this was someone who died.
Right.
And you felt you were almost like dreaming, but like having a communication
Right,
with them.
absolutely.
Right.
And I mean, and that may just be my brain. How do you prove it, right?
Exactly. How do
But
you prove it? We
I
just
don't
had a
know.
psychic in here the other day. She's last week,
Yeah.
from when this one's showing, she was
Yeah.
in here and she felt a presence, and I literally felt with my hand, and I could feel almost like a deep freeze cold.
Yeah.
And then I moved my hand aside from
That's
it, where
cool.
she was kind of saying she
Yeah.
was thinking the presence
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
and it wasn't cold outside of my hand,
Wow,
outside of
that's
that
kinda cool,
space.
Well, no, and how do
she
we
said
know, right?
commonly, if a spirit shows up, you do feel this cool, which you said.
Well, and here's
so
the
then
thing,
she
okay,
sort of walked past where
If you
she
can't
had
prove
died.
there's another dimension, how can you disprove?
Exactly.
I mean,
But
there's
you've
no
never
way.
seen anything. You've never had any little
No.
fuzzy, hazy images.
No.
Right. Have you ever seen any coins left behind? Because I've done some research, and some of these spirits like to, besides taking things, they like to have coins
You know,
left behind.
Haven't had any weird thumping noises, nothing like that. Nothing
Yeah.
appeared. It's always just common stuff that we use every day, and all of a sudden it's gone for a while. And then, of course, that light bulb's cool. And it actually, first time we noticed it was actually on Halloween. That was really cool.
Oh,
It was
you're
really cool.
kidding.
It was like, no,
On Halloween
it was like
night,
11
you
o'clock at
noticed
night on
something.
Halloween night, and it's like, this is freaky.
Oh, okay.
No, I really, it was like, we were
How old
like,
were the kids when that
oh,
happened?
Grant's probably 8 or 9, and
Yeah,
Ted was
they're
probably
little.
12. They were little, but we thought that was cool.
Didn't spook them out, did
And you
it?
could not get, and of course I had an electrician come out the next week, and the guy rewired everything, and everything's fine.
Yeah.
And nothing else, there's no other bulb in the house that does anything other we want. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, again, can't prove it wasn't electrical, but it's been 3, I mean, and I know the people right before we got there rewired it. We've done it twice, and it still does it. And you're like, okay.
And that's kind of what, if you read about this, for people who investigate this and research this, it is a lot of times an electrical disturbance. You know, you might see something flickering, or the TV,
Yeah,
or a
yeah,
sound, or something like that.
Well, and admittedly, I'm not goosey about it. I mean, I'm not afraid of ghosts, and I didn't really believe in that kind of thing. But, well, although it's funny, apparently we got this story a couple years after we bought the house. It was going to be bought by someone else about 2 months before we bought it. And she was all excited about it. Took her husband and a friend of hers from California, who turned out to be a psychic. And the psychic would not go in the house.
Oh, very interesting. But that kind of speaks to the fact they were frightened of this spirit, and you said
Psychic
this is
wouldn't
a
go.
totally benevolent,
Well,
not
and,
going to
no,
hurt
and here's the
anyone.
thing about the fire curse. Now, the thing,
Oh,
you know,
the
if you
fire
look at
curse
that,
too.
okay, that house that first set up there was William Phillips' house, the guy that found Salina, and it burned down. It got hit by lightning and burned down. And his wife, he had then died. His wife moved to Washington, D.C. and died. She burned to death in her.
Now, the original owner was 1916 of this house.
Oh no, this is before that. This is like 1890s. There was a house there.
Okay, right in that location.
And it been burned down by lightning. And a couple years later, the lady that lived there went to Washington D.C. and she burned to death. A candle lit her nightgown on fire, and she died. And then we had the death from the fire in '75. I mean, there's been some.
Well, that
stuff
in
there.
itself would spook me a little bit, and I think we need to take a little
Well, this
break,
is-
and I
okay.
might want to see.
Well,
if
this is really
there's
interesting.
more
We had
to
our
that.
priest came in and do a house
Uh-huh.
blessing, and he threw water. I mean, he put holy water everywhere. And it was so funny. About a month later, we came home, we smelled something burning, and one of the lights like floor lights had actually shorted out and burned, but it didn't burn up.
Oh wow, had a little holy water on it, so that
We'll
kept
take
it from.
And we got a good fire.
we'll
we got
go
a
with
good
that
fire alarm
one.
system too.
Well, that's very interesting, Dr. Hodges, and I'm anxious to hear some more about this, but we're going to need to take a little break. So this is Joan with the Joan Jerkovich Show, and be sure to catch the video outtakes, podcasts, and links to iTunes and my blogs on joanjerkovich.com. I'll be right back on 910 KINA Salina. We'll take a little break.
Cool.
Just for a minute. Yeah, I wondered about that. I was thinking as you were talking, what about the fire? What about,
Well, this is real interesting. To me, it's real interesting. We did a lot of.
the concerns of another fire?
No, it's sort of because our house is prairie style. It was based on Frank Lloyd based it on Japanese architecture. Okay, and if you look at in Japanese mythology, there's a place they call Kimon, Kimon. Okay, it's where the devil enters the valley.
Oh.
Okay, and it's always on the northeast corner of any valley, is where it's called Devil's Gate or
Okay.
Kimon. Okay, well if you look at the Smoky Valley, our house is sitting right on Kimon.